Hello and welcome to Arnie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Phantom Bride of East Cowes. Chapter 1, Shadows in the Night. Holly Arnold's life on the Isle of Wight was one of quiet routine, a symphony of solitude orchestrated by her love for history. In her modest cottage on the edge of East Cowes, surrounded by books and faded maps, she spent her days unraveling the island's bastard tales of shipwrecks, royal retreats, and forgotten souls. But on that October night, the past reached out to her, its cold fingers brushing against the fabric of her reality. She was hunched over her desk, the flickering glow of a single candle illuminating an ancient chart of the Solent. The wind rattled the windows, a familiar companion to her nocturnal studies. Then, without warning, a gust snuffed out the flame. Darkness swallowed the room. Holly frowned. All the windows were latched tight. She had checked them earlier against the autumn chill. A sound pierced the silence, a low, keening wail, mournful and distant, like a voice carried on the sea breeze. It wasn't the wind. She knew its howl too well. This was something else. Something human. Or once human. Grabbing her flashlight and a woolen coat, Holly stepped outside. The moon hung heavy over the water, casting a silver path across the waves. The air smelled of salt and secrets. She followed the sound toward the cliffs, her boots crunching on the gravel path. The wail grew louder, more plaintive, tugging at her heart with an inexplicable sorrow. At the cliff's edge she saw her. A woman in a white wedding dress stood motionless, her veil billowing as if caught in an unseen tempest. Her figure shimmered faintly, edges blurred against the night sky. Holly's breath hitched. The woman turned, and their eyes locked. Hers were hollow, brimming with an anguish that transcended time. For a heartbeat, Holly felt that pain as her own. Then the figure vanished. Silence returned, save for the relentless crash of waves below. Holly stumbled back to her cottage, her mind a whirlwind of questions. She had heard the local legend of the Phantom Bride of East Cowes, a ghostly figure who haunted the cliffs, searching for her lost groom. It was a tale she dismissed as superstition, a quaint story for tourists. Now, doubt gnawed at her. What had she seen? Chapter 2, Echoes of the Past. The next morning, Holly descended on the East Cowes Library with a historian's determination. Sunlight streamed through the dusty windows, illuminating shelves laden with aging volumes. She pulled newspapers, journals, anything that might mention the Phantom Bride. Hours passed, and a story began to emerge from the yellowed pages. Elizabeth Montague was her name, a young woman of gentle beauty and modest means, engaged to Thomas Worthington, a sailor, in the spring of 1845. Their wedding was set for a bright April day at St. Mary's Church. But Thomas never arrived. Official records claimed his ship, the Sea Sparrow had vanished in a storm off the Isle of Wight, lost with all hands. Elizabeth, heartbroken, refused to accept his death. Night after night she walked the cliffs, gazing out at the sea, the solitary figure in her faded wedding gown. Years later she was found dead at the base of those same cliffs, her body broken on the rocks. An accident, the coroner said. A suicide, the villagers whispered. Holly leaned back in her chair, the weight of Elizabeth's tragedy settling over her. The photograph she'd glimpsed in her mind's eye last night, the woman in white, matched the descriptions. But why had she appeared now? What did she want? That afternoon, Holly visited St. Mary's, now a crumbling relic overtaken by ivy and time. The air inside was thick with dust and memory. She ran her fingers along the worn pews, imagining Elizabeth's hopeful steps down the aisle. At the altar, she found a registry book, its leather cover cracked with age. Flipping to April 1845, she saw their names, Elizabeth Montague and Thomas Worthington *. The date was recorded, but the marriage line remained blank. Beside Thomas's name, a terse note, missing, presumed dead. Tucked between the pages was a faded daguerreotype. A young woman stared back, her expression serene yet tinged with melancholy. On the reverse, in delicate script, Elizabeth, 1845 *. Holly's pulse quickened. This was her, the Phantom Bride. That night sleep brought no rest. A dream seized her, vivid and unrelenting. She stood in St. Mary's, the church restored to its former glory. Elizabeth waited at the altar, radiant in white, her face alight with joy. The pews were filled with summer guests, the priest poised to begin. But as the clock struck noon, the doors burst open. Rough men stormed in, dragging Thomas stout, dark-haired, struggling out into the daylight. Elizabeth's scream shattered the air, a sound of raw despair. Holly woke, her cheeks wet, her heart pounding. It wasn't just a dream. It felt like a memory. Chapter 3: Whispers of Betrayal. The dream gnawed at Holly, urging her deeper into the mystery. Thomas hadn't died at sea, someone had taken him. But who? And why? She returned to the library, then to the museum at Osborne House, where Victorian artifacts lay preserved behind glass. Among them, she found a bundle of letters tied with frayed ribbon, penned by Lord Percival Harrington, a wealthy landowner of the era. One letter, dated a week before the wedding, chilled her. Elizabeth's choice of that sailor is an affront to her station. I have loved her since we were children, and I will not see her squandered on a man of no consequence. Measures have been taken. Another, written days later, was vaguer but ominous. The matter is resolved. She will see reason in time. Holly's stomach turned. Lord Harrington had wanted Elizabeth for himself. Had he orchestrated Thomas's disappearance? Digging further, she uncovered a diary kept by Samuel Pierce, Harrington's servant. Its pages trembled with guilt. On April 17, 1845, Samuel wrote, My lord's jealousy has led to a sin I cannot unmake. We took the sailor, Thomas Worthington, bound him, and hid him where no one will look. Smuggler's Cove holds his secret now. I pray for forgiveness. The next entry, dated the wedding day, was brief. He is gone. My lord says it is for the best. Elizabeth weeps, unaware of the truth. Holly sat back, stunned. Thomas had been murdered, his body concealed in Smuggler's Cove, a coastal cave notorious among locals for its hidden depths and perilous tides. Lord Harrington's jealousy had torn the lovers apart, leaving Elizabeth to grieve a lie. Now her ghost sought justice, or perhaps reunion. Holly needed to find that cave. She sought out Jack Tully, a grizzled fisherman whose withered face bore the lines of a lifetime at sea. Over a pint at the ship and castle she explained her quest. Jack's eyes darkened. Smuggler's Cove ain't a place for the faint-hearted. Tides will sweep you away if you're not careful, but I've seen things out there, lights where no boat should be, voices on the wind. If your bride's tied to it, I'll take you. Chapter 4. The next dawn, Holly and Jack set out in his wedded skiff, the Salty Rose. The sea was deceptively calm, its surface a mirror reflecting the grey sky. As they neared the cove, the cliffs loomed, jagged and foreboding. Jack pointed to a slit in the rock face, barely visible behind a curtain of seaweed. Out there. Low tide's our chance. Watch your step. They anchored and waded through the shallows. The cave's mouth swallowed them, darkness pressing in. Our flashlight beam danced across damp walls, revealing rusted hooks and splintered crates, relics of smugglers long gone. Deeper in, the air grew heavy, thick with the stench of decay. In a shadowed alcove, they found him. A skeleton lay slumped against the rock, its sailor's jacket tattered, a rusted shackle chaining one ankle to a spike driven into the stone. Holly knelt her throat tight. Clutched in the bony fingers was a locket. She pried it open, revealing a tiny portrait of Elizabeth, her smile frozen in time. This is Thomas. He never left her willingly. Jack muttered a prayer. Poor bastard, what now? We bring him home. To Elizabeth, but first. Lord Harrington's descendant, Edward Harrington, still lived in the family estate overlooking East Cowes. When Holly approached him with the diary and her intent to exhume Thomas's remains, he bristled. Preposterous, he snapped. You'll tarnish my family's name with this nonsense. I'll see you in court before I let you dig up some old bones. It's not about your name. It's about them, Elizabeth and Thomas. They deserve peace. She enlisted the local historical society and the police, presenting the diary as evidence of a historical crime. Reluctantly, Edward relented, and Thomas's remains were recovered under official supervision. Chapter 5: The Reunion. Holly chose the cliffs for the vigil, the place where Elizabeth's ghost had first appeared. Under a full moon, she stood alone, the locket in her hand, the wind tugging at her coat. Beside her, a wooden box held Thomas's bones, soon to be buried beside Elizabeth's grave. "Elizabeth," she called. "I've found him. Thomas is here. Come to me." Then a mist rose from the sea, swirling around her like a living thing. From its depths emerged the phantom bride, her form more solid now, her eyes softer. She floated toward Holly, her gaze fixed on the locket. "Ah?" Her voice was a whisper, fragile yet piercing. "Yes," Holly said. "He loved you. He never meant to leave." Elizabeth's hand hovered over the trinket. A tear glistened on her spectral cheek. "Thank you." The mystic and then another figure took shape, Thomas, tall and handsome. He reached for Elizabeth, and she for him. Their hands met, no longer separated by death. They turned to Holly, their faces radiant with gratitude, then faded into the light, the mist dissipating with them. Holly exhaled, a shiver running through her. The cliffs were silent once more. The next day, Thomas was laid to rest beside Elizabeth in St. Mary's churchyard. Villagers gathered, murmuring about the end of the haunting. As the priest spoke, a breeze carried the faint scent of roses, an echo of love reclaimed. Epilogue, peace restored. Weeks later, Holly walked the cliffs at dusk, the sea stretching endlessly before her. The mournful wails had ceased, replaced by the rhythmic lull of the waves. She thought of Elizabeth and Thomas together at last, their story no longer a tragedy but a testament to love's endurance. In her cottage, among her books and maps, Holly added a new chapter to East Cow's history, one of ghosts, betrayal, and redemption. She smiled, knowing she'd played a part in it. Sometimes, on quiet nights, she'd catch a glimpse of two figures in the distance, hand in hand, and she'd nod to them, a silent guardian of their peace. The end. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.